Hello, I'm here today with some wonderful students from Morehouse and Spelman. As many of you all know, there's a media blitz right now that 4 students were arrested yesterday, and we found out later that the victims are Spelman students. So this is of great concern. So as a person who is concerned, as a alumni of Morehouse, I wanted to go directly to the campus and talk with some students to sort of get a feel for the tone, where they are, and how this whole thing is impacting what's going on now. Maybe first, if we could all introduce ourselves, and then we can sort of begin our conversation.
Hello, my name is Alea Phillips.
You are a sophomore, junior?
I'm a sophomore at Spelman College, dual degree engineering major.
My name is Rabia Elisa. I'm a sophomore at Spelman College as well, a political science major and Asian studies minor.
My name is Brian Freeman II. I'm a junior at Morehouse, business management major.
First, I want to just open up. This is a lot, and there's been a lot. I'm sure you've heard it. It was on all the major networks. I've never heard of anything like this happening. Just sort of give me your take on what is actually happening with this particular issue.
Well, first I'd like to mention the fact that you haven't heard of anything like this happening before doesn't mean that it hasn't been occurring now and always at either institution. These events aren't isolated events. You know, it's not just pertaining to the AUC. These are kind of crimes that are committed on campuses all over the world. And the fact that it's brought to light now, yes, you know, there's false reports and there's misperceptions of the situation. But I think the truly alarming part of all of this is not that someone was raped or sexually assaulted, because people are raped and sexually assaulted on a daily basis, but the culture surrounding the rape and sexual assault. There's this growing culture of insensitivity towards rape and sexual assault in the AUC and off campus. And it's to the point where violence against women and sexual assault against women and against people in general have become sort of a normalcy, to the point where people, you know, it's a point of mockery for some people, or humor, or they, you know, scrutinize the victim. And there's so much attention put on the victim and not the perpetrator. And, you know, people want to make comments like, you know, she was intoxicated, or, you know the details of whether she was engaged willingly, you know, before anything happened. But what people don't understand is that to make those comments and scrutinize the victim and say she was deserving of it or ask for it, silences the voice of any woman that ever wants to, you know, tell her story, and now and in the future. And it's truly saddening and sickening, actually, that it has to get to this point for people to realize that it's real and that it's happening and that it occurs, you know, instead of just having the critical consciousness and awareness that, of course, these things happen.
Yes.
And it has, you know, as you state here in your you know, your op-ed piece, that these are it's reflective of the Morehouse institution and the people they're admitting. I don't see that at all. I think Morehouse is, you know, should be highly respected for what they instill in their students. But I think what Morehouse and Spelman both need to do is, you know, address these things before these things happen.
I agree.
During NSO and orientation and convocations and Crown Forum, conversations about sexual assault and rape need to be had openly, so that these things aren't, you know, these monumental,
shockers.
Oh my God, I can't believe this happened events, because they're happening frequently and people are hush about it. And when people do bring it into light, they may be neglected or, you know, passed off or silenced, and shouldn't be happening.
As a Morehouse student.
I mean, I heard about the news a day before everybody else. And I didn't even believe it at first.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nah, I don't think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I saw it, I was kind of mad. I was like, they really wowed. Like, I felt disgusted, you know what I mean? But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what really happened, so I can't really speak on, like, on that until an investigation.
And no one can,
True.
except for the parties involved.
What do you think?
I feel as though it's a question of if it's true or false. Because I feel like if it's true, I want them to suffer the consequences. Like, I don't want them to, you know, I don't have hatred for no one, but I do want, if they were to rape the girl, I want them to serve time in jail. Like, I feel like they should leave Morehouse, and I feel embarrassed. That's just how I feel. Because I do have a Spellhouse tie. It's a Spellhouse thing at the end of the day, and I feel like if that's the relationship that some students at Morehouse have with some students at Spelman, that's how they respect them, that's how they would interact with a Spelman female, then I think that it's detrimental to the whole image of the Spellhouse relationship. So I feel like what we convey as a brother-sister school, we should not have the students doing that to the female students at Spelman. And if they are, then it shouldn't, you know, negate the whole image of the school, but they should just be removed and do whatever they have to do. But, you know, I feel like with their withdrawal, it will be okay. But as of right now, yes, I'm embarrassed.
It is a shocker. I can tell you, for someone who's been out greater than 20 years, I guess from what I'm hearing, especially from you, is that this culture has been there but not addressed. Is this something that we really need to address at this juncture?
Of course. Did anyone else? No. What Leah was saying about, you know, making sure the men receive their, you know, proper punishment and things like that. I think where we often skew from the main issue is that we do want to be punitive, and we do want to convict the victim or the perpetrators. And I think as peers, that's not our place. That's the court's place. That's the law's place to do those sort of things.
True.
And what we should be doing as peers is, you know, in the Spelman and Morehouse administration is coming together, and like I said before, having open discussions about these things before they happen.
That's true.
It shouldn't get to this point before people are knowledgeable that, you know, rape and sexual harassment occur. And, you know, people ask questions whether this will, you know, create tension between Morehouse and Spelman, or, you know, disband, you know, strong relationships and hurt the, you know, Spellhouse brotherhood and sisterhood. However, if anything, it should bring us closer together. There should be more collaborative meetings. There should be more collaborative discussions. We shouldn't be separate entities. We're interconnected in everything else, in every other aspect, in terms of academia to campus events. So in terms of crime that happens between Morehouse and Spelman students, even Clark Atlanta, we all do need to come together. That there needs to be an open forum between all the schools where these kind of things are addressed. And without doing so, we really do fail to realize that it's not an AUC problem, it's a global problem where people aren't open enough about this kind of stuff, because, I mean, people are very private about their sexuality in general. But when we're talking about sexual terror and we're talking about sexual harassment, those aren't the kind of things you're quiet about. Those are the kind of things where everyone needs to have a say in it. And everyone needs to realize that it is a problem. It's a growing problem, not just in the AUC. And the more we pretend like it's not, when these events like this arise, you know, people throw around scrutinies and criticism that are you know, not really centered on the issue and not really focus on solutions. We're still stuck in, you know, oh, here's a problem, exactly, the story.
Yeah.
Like, let's get past the story. Now where are we going?
I do believe that the silence has been broken, definitely, because old, young, I mean, when I saw the release, it came across CNN, it came across Cascade Patch, it came across Morehouse. I mean, it was coming from everywhere yesterday in the office. I guess maybe I was a bit removed. I know that it does happen because I am a board psychiatrist, so I do see this happening, but I never thought that in that environment that it was such an issue. So did you know that this, I've heard, so you didn't know either?
That's what people don't talk about this stuff.
Okay.
So I mean, I never really thought about it at all, really.
Did you know that, have you heard of?
I've heard of girls getting drunk and being taken advantage of, and it's repetitive. I hear it, but when are we gonna start looking at it as these? I don't know how we should be looking at it at this point. Should we still be looking at it as the girl is getting drunk and they're taking advantage of her? Should we look at it as the guys they should start taking the initiative to tell the girl? I don't know how we should start approaching this situation. So I don't know. It's happening, but that's not enough to say like it's okay. Yes, it's happening.
Yeah.
What can we do about it?
Well, I was made aware of this issue far before the press release came out. Actually, when the press release came out, I was actually shocked that they hadn't gotten wind of it earlier. And the facts, so-called facts, that are listed here or out now are not completely true.
Okay.
Considering one of the students is not even associated with the other rape case. There was a charge on the 11th of April and then a charge on the 15th with the separate case. And the students involved in the second case, it's not just Migbo that was charged with aggravated sodomy. They were all charged with aggravated sodomy. And so, you know, it's just little slips like that in reporting that leads people to, like, you know, distrust the credibility of the whole situation.
True.
And, you know, I digress because, like I said before, it doesn't matter exactly what happened, you know what I mean? Or
It happened.
Or whether it happened or it didn't. It's the fact that, you know, when it does happen, when it is the truth, when it does come out, how do we respond? Like Alea was just saying. And actually a couple, like just last week, a student, Morgan Powell, in our year in 2015, and I organized what's called a slut walk. And it started in Toronto, Canada in 2008, I believe, 2011, when a law enforcement officer made the assertion that if women didn't dress like sluts, maybe they wouldn't get raped. And so since when, there's been slut walks all over the country, all over the globe, where women dress skimpily, or so-called provocatively, and rally saying, you know, no matter what I'm wearing, no matter what state I'm in, intoxicated or not, if I do not say yes, and more importantly, if I say no or stop, then you stop.
Right.
If you don't, then it's considered rape or sexual harassment.
True.
To put your hands on any human being without their consent is harassment, and
True.
it's assault, and it's illegal. And so things like, you know, whether she was intoxicated or not, beyond the point.
Doesn't
If
matter.
she says no, the only thing the only determinant of rape, the only thing that justifies a rape is a rapist. You know, it doesn't matter if she was intoxicated, half naked, you know, engaged in it prior to saying no, you know, she was consenting before she said no. If she said no, the only problem is that the rapist is the rapist, and the rapist took upon themselves to have control and power and dominance over her body or his body. That's another thing that goes very unspoken, is that we're using pronouns like if she is the victim. There are men being sexually harassed and raped as well. I can't say obviously whether it's happening at Morehouse for a fact, But I wouldn't be surprised if men at Morehouse are being raped and sexually harassed, just like men around the world are raped and sexually harassed, and are probably even more silent than women, because it comes into this whole question of their masculinity, which is a way deeper conversation we could have for another time. But yeah, it doesn't matter what a woman's wearing or a man's wearing, or the state the person's in. No is no,
right?
And that's the end of that discussion. Even a maybe is a no.
Is a no.
Yeah, unless it's yes, or her physical action of doing so, then
it's a no.
Yeah, it's a no.
Well, I want to thank the three of you for coming, and truly, the silence has been broken. I will share with you, I have been educated by the three of you. Just never would have thought that these type of things would have been mentioned amongst the Spell House relationship. But it is obvious that now it is time for some very vivid and open discussions. And I do believe that the silence has been broken.